In this video, I am going to discuss file naming and organization. By beginning your project with a well-constructed and consistently applied file naming convention and organizational structure for your data, it will save you a lot of time and money as well as assist you in better collaboration. Consistent file naming is needed to keep track of the dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of files of data that are accumulated during a research project. Imagine if every member of the research team submitted files with different names that they understand, but the rest of the team doesn't. Files should include the name of each location where data is collected so that data can easily be retrieved in the future. Graduate students come and go. Imagine a student leaves and doesn't follow the same naming protocol as the rest of the team. It could be a challenge to find their data later on. If a research project takes years, it's important to establish a sound file naming protocol before the project starts so that data can easily be retrieved in the near or distant future. Plus, different data might need to be analyzed at different times and/or by different team members, as well as data might need to be found so that it can be shared with other researchers after the project is completed. You should meet with your team and decide on a file naming convention before conducting your research, because as you can see on these slides, there are many different ways to create appropriate file names, and you want everyone to be on the same page. First, I'm going to go over the principles of file naming. File names should be descriptive, like in this example, with the date _survey _data. They should also be consistent. You should always document your naming convention, including abbreviations and acronyms, and use it consistently, because this makes it easier for you to find files when you need them, to share files with your team and colleagues, and you'll spend less time organizing your files when you publish the data later on. They should also be short, preferably less than 25 characters. It's tricky to do this well and may take some practice before you get the hang of it. Next, we're going to transition to best practices of file naming. You should use underscores and/or dashes instead of spaces. This slide has two examples of file naming conventions. Camel case, which is a mixture of uppercase and lowercase letters like in this example, and pothole case, which differentiates words in a name by separating each with an underscore, as in this example. And of course, camel case and pothole case can always be combined as well. Something else to keep in mind is that some computer operating systems cannot handle spaces or special characters. ISO 8601 format is widely used to represent the date in a file name and uses fewer characters. It can also sort files chronologically. Make sure you and your team decide on which format is going to be used before conducting your research, and then once you pick a format, stick with it. In addition to using ISO 8601 format, other items to keep in mind are avoid special characters like quotation marks, carets, colons, asterisks, etc. This slide and the next slide have examples of well-done file names. You can do the date and site name, the date and experiment type and number or location, the species name and experiment type and experiment number, the experiment type and sample name, the date and sample source and sample name, and chapter and version. Lastly, I'm going to discuss file versioning, which is important since it allows you to track your progress, to know what's in the most recent version of a file, and easily revert to previous versions of the file if needed. The best way to version files is as shown on this slide by appending an underscore and a V and number to the file name. The downside of versioning is that it does not document what was changed between versions. So we highly recommend taking notes on what each file version contains. Versioning can also be helpful so that you don't end up with multiple files that have final in the name or files that say final or something else confusing to that effect. However, you should always put final in the file name of any file that houses a completed document to make it stand out from all the other versions of the files. That way, it's easier to find. Thank you for listening, and if you'd like to learn more about this topic, check out the Research Data Guide, Hardin's website for our class schedule, and/or contact your liaison for more information.